Good morning, traders. Today is Tuesday, February 8th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Okay, well, as far as what to expect today, honestly, my analysis is very similar to yesterday, which is just that, with the added continued balance conversation here, I would say basically we could look at the overnight low as potential support. They probably got to head back down there and get a few ticks lower just because that would be considered weak. So it's worth keeping in mind we do have kind of a weak low. We don't normally count overnight lows, but this tight of a range that close to the low, we may need to head down there and get a little bit of excess. So we'd be looking for support right around yesterday's low, right in this area. If that starts to break, I'd get more nervous for a larger pullback. And if we're able to push higher here and get above yesterday's high, I would look for support and continuation higher from there. But as long as we're trading around inside yesterday's range, we're likely to just get rotation. Yesterday didn't give us much insights because it was a rotational day inside the previous day's range. We got overlapping to higher volume, but then we closed down here near the lows. So it all kind of felt very neutral by the end of the day. So if we get heavy resistance above us here today and we can't get back up into, get above the overnight high, that would be bearish. And same thing if we don't pull down below the overnight low, that would be bullish. And we got to kind of just wait out the market. We're opening inside the previous day's range, so we expect chop, obviously, first thing in the morning here. The overnight inventory is relatively neutral. It was a little bit net short, but not that much. So that counter auction right there is plenty to have absorbed that. So we'll just keep an eye on the internals and see how the momentum builds today. Are there more buyers or sellers? So first potential resistance is going to be this area here just above us. Getting through that should get us up there to that overnight high. We have bad taper on the low here. So that increases the odds that we are going to get chopped this morning. Keep that in mind. Chop, chop, chop. Man, chat's lighting up this morning. Good morning, Diego, Chris, Cyrus, Audico? Sorry, I don't know how to say that name. Welcome. We're happy to have you from Mongolia. That's awesome. FRM, good morning to you. S&P Attic is here. Nor Auto Trader back with us. David Glass. Ronald is here. Amazon Selling Info is here. Good morning to you. Big Ray back with us. Low Goldfish. Scooball. Thank you, Nor. Please hit the like button. Still only 6 contracts at the low, so we're still likely to head back down here again, do a little more trade. So if yesterday's low starts to break here, I'd be looking for continuation at least down to the low from 2.4. And then looking for support at 44.40. If that doesn't hold, then testing the 200 daily SMA, which is currently sitting right at 44.28. Waiting for the market there. Can yesterday's low hold? Good morning, Philip. Welcome to you. Amir in the house. Stevens here. Espacio, good morning to you. Nunez is here. Dean's back with us. Espacio, game is simple. Enter the stream, push the like. I love it. Rev is here. Good to see you. J Trader, good morning. MW is here. 2 Manifs back with us. Good to see you. Sanju is here. David V in the house. Anton, hello once again. Cyrus, sorry I keep asking about the value area high or low as support or resistance, but if you don't use it for that, how do you use the value area? Well, I use it to look at how one day is comparing to the previous, right? So the fact that yesterday the value area was overlapping to higher, that all day kept me from worrying that we were going to have a massive sell-off, right? Even in the B period, I didn't trust that spike down that we got. All day I felt like we were going to find support and rotate back up because we had overlapping to higher value. Now that we have like overlapping to higher one day and lower values starting out today, that just increases the odds in my mind that we're either going to go sideways or we're going to go lower, right? Like we tried to break out of this downtrend, it failed, and so now we're going to have further downside continuation, or we're just going to go sideways as having value lower, overlapping to higher, and then lower again kind of just gives you that signal the market's in rotation. It's in a larger balance. So that's how I use it. And then I also use it throughout the day to kind of ask myself how strong a market is. So for example, let's say we spend a bunch of time this morning trading around down here. We bring in a lot of volume, kind of like the overnight did down in this area. And then at the very end of the day, we push higher and we start to trade up here. I'll be asking myself, do we have enough time left in the day to bring in enough volume up here that we can pull the value area higher? If not, I wouldn't trust this up move. I would think it's likely to pull back down into value. So it's a little more complicated, but it's very useful once you learn to recognize it. But I don't use, so there's two different types of market profile references. They're what are called dynamic and static references. So the dynamic references are the references that move up and down. So for example, the halfback is dynamic, the POC is dynamic, and the value area high and low are dynamic. So out of those, the only one that I use as support and resistance is the halfback. The others I don't use. It's the static references. So that's like previous TPO high and lows, the day's high and low, the opening price, the closing price from a previous day. Those static references I use as support resistance, but not the dynamic ones, with the exception of the halfback. MK, good morning to you. Trading Donkey drunk traded the overnight and made money. Would you have told us if the opposite had been true? Selling Theta, good morning. Can we please get a 44.40 touch today? Yeah, that's well within range. That'd be right where I'd look for support. But first, they got to break yesterday's low. Good morning, Jose. Good morning, Fausto. Donkey, if you got a drunk trade, overnight's a good time to do it. Things move slow. John, yeah, you're supposed to say, are you down with the POC? And then I say, yeah, you know me. Lil Goldfish, what period do you use on the average volume indicator? 21 days? This one down here is 10 days, the 10-day average. This one over here, normally I have it set the cumulative volume on the left. I normally have that set for 30 days, but right now I have it for 60, just because we were, pushing down into an area we hadn't been in over the last 30 days. And this one down here is the 10-day average. Nor Auto Trader, the overnight finding support one tick above yesterday's low. Is that strength? Does that mean it's a good, strong low? It's kind of a hard thing to explain because the taper in volume is bullish, right? The fact that both in the overnight and yesterday, when we pushed down into here, we ran out of sellers down here both times. No one willing to sell. So that's kind of bullish to see, but the fact that they stopped one tick above yesterday's low, tells us that it was just short-term traders. It wasn't hedge funds and larger participants that got in exactly one tick above the low. So the support in the overnight is built on weakness, and that is less bullish to see. So it ends up being kind of neutral. However, what would not be unreasonable to me is a quick little dip below today that pulls right back up in. I do think we need to dip below, though. Very slow chop this morning. Lots of uncertainty out there. Scooball, but how many people traded exactly at the low? It's only a few hundred contracts. Correct. but then nobody came back down to test it again, right? So this weak reference was enough to get the people who got in on the H and J lows, the K lows, all the way up, right? This is what got those traders to step back in and pull the price back up to that fairest price to do business. So it's built on weakness. Doesn't mean it has to be repaired, but just to me, that's a little bit weak to see, whereas the taper is bullish to see. That's the point I'm making. Taper is bullish, excess is not. Selling Theta says the slowness is a precursor. Feels like this was a failed bull move. It's very possible. You know, the people that bought the M period low yesterday and the overnight traders, if it breaks below, they could get squeezed for a little pop. But I wouldn't be worried about new sellers piling on unless we start to go lower from there. At the moment, we're just in balance. Just trying to guess which direction we're going to go. Okay, so pushing back up into this resistance, both nodes from overnight and from yesterday. Are we able to push through that this time? We have good taper on the low for today. Doesn't mean it'll be the low of the day, but if it was, it'd be a good low. Screwball, how many days got bad low at the end of the day? Yeah, like a day that doesn't have good taper or doesn't have good excess at the low. I would say more often than you would think. I'd say maybe like 20 to 30% of the time you end up with a bad high or low on the day. It's just less frequent. All right, so if we do dip down below yesterday's low here, what I'll be looking for is what happens when we do. When we dip below that low and pull back up, do we get resistance there? If we do, I'll be looking for continuation lower. But if we pull right back up into the range, I assume we're going to trade right back up to where the halfback and the POC currently is. We call that a look below and go, or a look below and fail of the previous day's range. It might not happen instantly, too. We might grind around for a little bit. But whichever direction it picks based on this low, either the look below and go or the look below and fail, should give us some potential moves here. Where can we learn the terms? The best place for look below, the best place is Shadow Trader's website. So you go to shadowtrader.net and scroll down to the bottom and then click on glossary. He's got all the terms explained there. That one would be under balance rules. Yeah, balance rules. I too am starting to get the sense that the very slow tempo here is actually going to be bearish in the end. I could be wrong, and it's just a sign that larger players are slowly accumulating, but to me, this shows a lack of enthusiasm, which means there aren't any buyers excited to buy at this level. And if we don't have buyers here, we'll need to pull back to find them. Nor Auto Trader. That's true. But just for the record, not today. I'm not in any trades here. This is too uncertain. No clear signals yet. Ranjan, I guess it's been like 2 years now, I guess, since I started trading with the profile. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, when the lockdowns happened. Donkey. Knock a zero off of that. Man, I totally forgot the Olympics were even happening. I haven't watched any of it this time around. All right, we now have a poor low here in the B period. It's poor because it's one tick, or it's at the same level as the A period low. We often get a push away from a poor low, and then the market comes back to repair it. There's the repair. And it's bringing in some sellers. Okay, so now is where we start to ask, is this going to be a look below and fail, or look below and go? The way we'll know they need one more push lower, squeeze a few more of the buyers out of their trades, and then come back up and look for resistance at yesterday's low. If it does break, I think the target will be the base of the single prints up from the 31st at 44.40. We've only 130 contracts right here at 44.61.50. That's likely to need to backfill, so we can wait for it to come up and then look for resistance rather than trying to FOMO into a short. All right, well, I'm bearish down to 44.40. They don't have the buyers, not here. All right, so here's where we look for resistance at yesterday's low. Is it a look below and fail? Does it pull back up into the range, or does it get resistance and continuation lower? All right, support. They're stepping in. I got bearish too early. So now we expect that same level right around yesterday's low to start to act as support if they pull back into it again. They tested lower, pulled back up into range. That's a look below and fail. So now we're looking for support to try to work our way higher. Also keep an eye on these ticks. Do they get smacked right back down below the zero line, or can they hold above the zero line? If they can hold above, that's new buyers stepping in. Mackie Max, dear check on aisle 5, please. Dear check on aisle 5. Dear check on aisle 5. All right, well, we opened below the 2-week references we left behind from yesterday, so we consider those repaired. We already looked below yesterday and the overnight low, so that is bearish to see. Initial balance is to the downside. Value is lower. So if the lows that you created this morning can hold, you'll look to test this node up here around 14,537. If that low breaks, you're looking to test the low from the 4th at 14,434. It's tough to call, though, here because they did push right into previous support in here. So that's holding at the moment. But value is lower, which is bearish, and you got a new low below the overnight low. Internals are not giving us much. They kind of look rotational at this point. Selling Theta says the NQ is putting a roof on the SPX. So you think the Q is pulling the SPX down? I really think they're moving in tandem right now. Have been for the last couple weeks, or at least week and a half. So I feel like as far as an entry to the long side here, I would just force myself to be patient because we are pushing up into resistance. So I need to see us get through there and come back down and then buy the support back inside of there for continuation higher. Now that's a perfectly acceptable trade because of the look below and fail. So essentially, what is look below and fail? What am I talking about? Anytime the market is in balance, meaning it's trying to figure out where it wants to go, it tends to bounce from one end of balance to the other. And we consider yesterday's range a sort of balancing area. It's just a one-day balance, so it's not that potent. It's not that big of a deal. But it was a balancing day because it was rotational, because the market just worked its way up and down throughout the day, and because it stayed inside the previous day's range. We know this was just a day where the market was balancing off, the move down, right? So if we looked below that balancing area and we didn't need to go any lower, it increases the odds that we're going to head back up to the opposite end, which would be yesterday's high, to see if there are still sellers up there like there were yesterday. So if we can get above this node right here, the top end of which is about 44.81, come back down and find support, I'd be willing to go for a long trade to try to head up to the opposite end, and I'd be monitoring for continuation at that overnight high. So long from the support, and then see what happens when we get up here. If it seems like we can't get through it, take profits there. If so, look for continuation to yesterday's high. But I'm not ready to jump into that long trade right now because we could still pull back below yesterday's range. And then it was just a matter of we were grinding around and we broke lower still. So that's why I'd have to be patient and wait till we get through that resistance before I would actually enter a long trade in support. Right now it's still chop. It's still uncertainty. So I will leave that to the scalpers and the computers. I believe my chart's in one tick. Yeah, I'm in one tick increments right now. All right. Well, man, it is the tale of two markets here. Buyers competing against sellers. But the more and more they try to poke up here into this resistance and it holds, the more and more it increases the odds that they need a larger pullback to bring in the buyers. So if we break back below that low from yesterday once again, I think then a good target is that 44.40 level. So the buyers need to step in right here and bring in the support, and they need enough to get through this resistance to the upside. Otherwise, eventually they give up, right? If they keep buying in here and pushing up and they can't get anything for it, how many times are they going to take that trade before eventually they give up and just let it fall? Nor Auto Trader. There's an interesting headline. Facebook and Instagram might be shut down in Europe. Say what? All right, so exactly the same as yesterday. As we print the C period here, since we are right in the middle of the initial balance, whichever direction it breaks, we should get continuation in that direction. If we're able to work our way back up through this resistance above, we should be able to get at least a pop higher to test the overnight high. And if we break that B period low, we're looking at a look below and fail of yesterday's range. And so I think we need a larger pullback towards 44.40. Looking for support. But at the moment, it is still indecision. All right, and with that, I shall bid you all farewell. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're a member of the Brigade, head on over to the private stream. If not, we will see you here tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your day.